When getting ready to plant into the garden or into the field, there's a few things that I think we should make sure have been done, or ideally as many of these things as possible be done. We talked about the mineral balancing in the fall. Ideally in the fall, it can be done in the spring before planting. We talked about the cover cropping. We talked about minimizing tillage. We talked about having an irrigation system and hopefully a foliar spraying system in place. I generally would suggest, if you use a fertilizer of any sort, that you would use that at the moment when you till under your cover crops or integrate your cover crops before planting. I like to use a conductivity meter when I plant to test the conductivity of the soil, and I'd like to see it be above 150 millisiemens to guarantee sufficient energy availability for the plant. But most importantly, when I'm planting, I like to put in a mix, I call it a planting and transplanting drench, of materials into the row or into the hole before I plant. So I'll make my row or hole, I'll water the materials in through an irrigation system or a watering can depending on your scope and size, and then plant. So the components of this system can be easily accessed through your local environment. If you want to buy inoculants, that's great, or if you want to make inoculants yourself, you can do that fairly readily. There's some good information on the web on indigenous microorganisms, sourcing microorganisms from your environment, and consolidating them and applying them. Basically, we're talking about going out with a 5-gallon bucket for a walk and picking leaves off of plants and letting them sit in a bucket of water overnight. If you pour that water off after it's been sitting in a bucket of leaves, it'll be full of broad spectrum of bacterial and fungal communities, and that can be used to stimulate the biological system or to establish a greater biological system in the root zone of the plants when you put them in the ground. I said before, I like to use sea minerals. Effectively, seawater has the largest spectrum of minerals of any naturally occurring material. It's got about 90 different minerals in it, and it also has a nice electrical charge to it. I would say something on the order of 50 gallons of seawater per acre could be used up to that level in the row before planting to give electrical conductivity, which will help the chemical reactions occur, and it also critically provides that very broad spectrum of trace elements which are critical for plant growth. The final component that I like to integrate is, again, the calcium and phosphorus. They're both critical for root development. Root development is critical at the early stages of plant development, and they tend to be sluggish or relatively unavailable if you're using organic methods. So there's rock phosphate. Colloidal rock phosphate is a very good source of highly available both phosphorus and calcium. If they're not soluble, they're bioavailable. So that's a very nice material to be adding in to your transplanting drench when you actually plant.